bum bum ba-dum bum 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 ba-da-da-dum bum bum ba-dum ba-ba-dum. Hello, friends. Hello, it's so nice to see you. I see all of your comments. It's wonderful to see you all joining me. And tonight's going to be a little different. We're going to, for those of you who are my Mighties or my Mighties Plus, there's a lot of extra dividends for you this evening. So for my regular Monday Night Live people, we're going to cut it a little bit short. We're going to end around 8:20 Eastern Time, and then I'm going to move on. So I've got a script here. My name is Joette Calabrese, and I'm here every Monday night to do one thing and one thing only, and that is to teach you homeopathy, especially the way that I use it. And I'm not the only one who uses it this way, but we're changing things up a bit with this type of homeopathy, and that is condition-specific homeopathy is what we're doing. So for those of you who are new here, welcome. And for those of you who are old friends, it's wonderful to see you all. I see you all coming in right now. Good evening, dear Joe, it says Celeste. Hi, Celeste. Nice to see old friends here. It's great. It's wonderful. So we're going to get right into this because I've got a lot to talk about tonight. And as I said, we're going to go from our regular Monday Night Live at about 8:20. We're going to flip over to, if you're a Mighties, stay on. We'll go right into Mighties, and I've got a little presentation for you there, a little bit of information based on the conference that the video I just did for the National Center for Homeopathy last Wednesday, and I'm going to expand on some ideas there that I think you're going to like. And then for Mighties Plus, I'm going to do just a nice Q&A shortly after that. So let's get started. Fear of flying, so common, and yet many people are embarrassed by it. They don't want others to know. We even have Floozy here who has a fear of flying now because, as you know, you can see her wings, she's been plucked. I don't know if you can see, you see her skin. She's been plucked. She's going to stay with us because she has a fear of flying as well. And Floozy's very important. I don't know, she's a very important part of our life together here online because she has a fear of lots of, her full name is Influenza, but I call her Floozy for short. And so she has a lot of fear of those kinds of things. You see how she's always nervous, always looking around to see if everything's okay because she's worried that the next disease is coming right around the corner. So anyway, we're just gonna have her sit with me for part of this evening. So let's talk about fear of flying. As I said, for many people, it can be an embarrassment, and so they don't like to talk about it. But there are so many people who have had fear of flying, and I've actually had it myself years ago. I don't know, it went away, probably because one of the medicines that I'm going to talk about tonight is something that I've taken throughout the years for other conditions. And it's likely that it resolved a lot more than I thought it had. My father would not fly. My father was in the Navy. He was on ships way out into the Pacific, etc. But my father would not fly. And so anytime I lived other than nearby, he would always drive regardless of the distance. So I know what it's like to have a family member who suffers from this. I'm going to tell you about 3 medicines tonight. Now, it doesn't mean it's the only one that we should be talking, the only ones we should be talking about. No. Let me tell you this. Floozy, you have to move over. I have to get this book out. So I'm going to show you the Meta Repertory by Robin Murphy, and you're not going to get the potency or the frequency here. You're going to get just the blueprint of where we can look, and I will show you this. Fear under the mind section, which is on page 123. Under the mind section, fears airplanes. Not fears airplanes above us, fears airplanes about being on the airplane. And I'm going to show it to you, and I'm also going to show you what's really interesting, what I wrote in the margins long time ago. As you can see, let's see, here it is, right here. Fear of flying, right there. Fear of airplanes. Aconitum. I can't read it. It's upside down, or sideways, so I can't really read it. The most important remedies are aconitum, argentum nitricum, calcarea carbonicum, arsenicum's in there, but not very big. Gelsemium, phosphorus, and those are the most important. So, years ago, when I was still a classical homeopath, meaning that I was taught to use one medicine and one medicine only. That's it. Done. One medicine. Then the next time you meet with the person, you can change that medicine perhaps. You might go up in potency, but you do not use two medicines simultaneously. You don't ever mix them together. You don't use more than one in a schedule. You don't repeat. Excuse me. But I learned about this medicine that I had heard was called AAA. And it was Argentum nitricum, Ambergrissia, and Arsenicum. Now, I'm going to repeat those remedies again so that you've got them. But it was a combination of 3 remedies. I also have to tell you that it's interesting that the remedies that are most specific for panic, anxiety, fear of airplanes, whatever it might be, you often start with the letter A. Argentum nitricum aconitum. It doesn't happen to be in this AAA, but it also happens to be very useful in situations such as this. Arsenicum, Argentum, what did I say? Ambergrissia, or Metallicum. These are medicines that are really useful for panic, anxiety, etc. But for this AAA, again, I'm going to tell you, it's Argentum. It's super easy phonetically to figure out how to spell it. Argentum. Argentum, Argentum nitricum, Nitricum. And it's going to be written, I think that Natalie's probably here tonight, and she'll write it out for you. 200C, Argentum nitricum, 200C, mixed with, in other words, if you don't buy it already mixed together, you're going to put Argentum nitricum into the mouth, and then you're going to put the next medicine in, and that is Ambergrissia, Ambra Grissia, Griesa. I hope I'm just doing that off the top of my head. I hope I'm spelling that properly. Natalie, if you don't mind, make sure that my spelling is correct, because I'm just spouting it out. And then, and the third one is Arsenicum album, Arsenicum album, like the photo album. All of them are 200C. You can mix them together, 4 pills of each or 4 or 5 pills of each in the mouth simultaneously, like the simultaneous sip. And you take that once the condition starts to arise. In other words, if the person has to fly on Saturday morning and the anxiety begins Friday, does that mean that the person waits till Saturday? No. Once the symptoms arise, that's when we begin treatment. So we start when it occurs. We can use all 3 of them together in one, all in one in the mouth. So what you've got is 4 or 5 pills of each. That's 4 to 5, 15 pills in your mouth simultaneously. Yes, my friends, don't swallow them. No. Put them under the tongue, suck on them, kind of chew them, keep them in the mouth. In a clean mouth, meaning don't have just taken a bite of a sandwich and then taken the remedies. Keep your mouth clean for a few minutes before and afterwards. Now let's say it's Friday afternoon and you're starting to think about it. You can use these 3 medicines simultaneously. If you don't see enough resolve, I mean, you should see a little shift perhaps. You might also take, and there's one more medicine here, and that's Gelsemium. Gelsemium, Gelsemium 30. And I love Gelsemium 30 because it's anticipatory anxiety. So if it feels more like it's anticipatory anxiety rather than fear of being in an airplane on, say, Friday, then put the AAA, the 3 medicines aside for now. Keep them in your hip pocket. Have them ready for tomorrow when you're about to board on the plane or when it starts to come up. And meanwhile, you can be taking Gelsemium 30. What else is Gelsemium 30 great for? Any anticipatory anxiety, such as going to the dentist. So many people have anxiety about going to the dentist. Gelsemium 30. When do we begin? When we start feeling that desire or that need, for something to relieve us from this terrible suffering of anxiety. It can calm things right down. But Gelsemium is generally for anticipation, while Argentum nitricum ambergrissia, and arsenicum mixed together are specific for fear of airplanes, fear of getting in an airplane. Even if somebody says, you know what, it's not really the airplane, it's it's claustrophobia. But if they don't have trouble being in a crowded room at a party, then we know that it's more likely the airplanes. And someone's just saying, my husband, who was a pilot, won't fly. Yeah, I know. There are a lot of pilots who think that way. It's not, my husband is a retired commercial pilot. He won't fly, but it's not because of fear. Yeah, he knows too much, right? It is funny. It's funny, but it isn't funny. Okay, so good. We're getting everybody writing this all up. Yep. I hope that I'm not freezing. We're having a lot of trouble to the last few days with some work that's being done out behind our house, and our internet is down. Tonight we're using another completely different method to get to the internet, and I think it's work. Yeah, Skylink. Skylink, is that what? Starlink. Star, not sky, star. It's the star that does it, not the sky. Okay. Yes. Yeah. And Gelsemium, yes, here we go, was used for Spanish flu. That's right. Well, Gelsemium is great for fatigue, too. So now let's say it's Saturday morning, and you're thinking, oh gosh, I got to get on that plane. Why am I doing this? Why do I put myself through this? How do I put up with this? I've got to go with my family, and now they know that I don't want to do this. It's like you're sweating bullets. You're so uncomfortable. Take another dose. Now, could it be a dose every 5 minutes? Oh, I don't know that I'd go that close. I certainly would consider using it every couple of hours. So if upon awakening on Saturday morning, you're starting to feel this coming on, that's when you start. Then maybe a few hours later, let's say your flight's at noon. Now you're at the airport. Oh my gosh, it's getting worse. Just that thought of it. It's getting worse. Take another dose. Now, once you're in the plane, you can take it every couple of hours. And you're going to find out where that tipping point is. At what point can I say that I'm comfortable with this medicine? That I'm starting to feel a little more relaxed? The fear is not as great. It feels like things are not going to go wrong. Even if you're not thinking things are going to go wrong. And let me also say one other aspect of anxiety that we all as humans have experienced. Most people say, you don't understand, my anxiety is different. Well, it's different to you because you're comparing it to someone next to you who doesn't have any anxiety. But anxiety is anxiety. And it can show up in perspiration. It can show up in restlessness. It can show up in weeping. It can show up in going silent. It can show up in being loquacious. It is anxiety. And this is one of our best medicines for fear of flying. Now, let me say one more thing, because I'm going to have to leave in a few minutes. I see. Oh, here we go. My father, who was an aeronautical engineer, rarely flew, but when he did, would get most nervous with takeoffs and landings. Well, that makes sense because, it's the calm at 30,000 above. Excuse me, that is most comfortable. So let's say you try this. You use it, and it doesn't act. It doesn't act. This is not the end-all, be-all. It is a remedy. This combination of medicines and also using Gelsemium for anticipatory anxiety is the most commonly used. But it doesn't mean we're done. Because you see here, look at all the medicines we've got here. We've got aconitum. We've got arsenicum, we already said that. Carcinosin, calcarea carbonicum. Oh, I can barely read. It's pretty dark in here. Lycopodium, Lysin, Metaurinum, Natmur, phosphorus, pulsatilla, stramonium is in here too. So we've got a lot of medicines from which to choose. I'm giving you the medicine, this combination of medicines that is the most commonly found to be useful. Now, there's one other way you can do this. Instead of putting all those pills in your mouth, you can put the pills in I've got a lot of water here, but let's say you put it in a little, let's say you put it in a bottle like this. and you put it in, this is about 2 ounces. You put in, let's say, an ounce of water, and you put the pills in there, allow them to dissolve, and when it's time to, and then you stir it all up. You can even succuss it 10 times before you take it, and then then you draw up and you put it directly into your mouth and drop the dropper into your mouth. And that would be about 20 drops, 15, this is draw up from the pipette, and that's about 15 to 20 drops. And that would be just enough. So you can do it either the pills dry in your mouth, or you can put them in a bottle and carry this on board. And yes, you may carry this on board because it's just an ounce of fluids. All right, I think I've got another 5 minutes. Let's see. Aconitum is another good one, and that's what I was going to tell you, my friends. I think when I used to have fear of flying, now, when I had fear of flying, I've got to say, those were the days when the equipment was different, the information was different, and it was inevitable that we had terrible turbulence. I used to fly a lot from Buffalo to Florida and Buffalo to Chicago, and inevitably the turbulence was so uncomfortable. You'd have a drink in your hand, and it would be the liquid would be flipping out of the glass, and it was so common. I have not had one of those flights in years. My son, who's a pilot, tells me it has to do with equipment and knowledge. Now, I'm talking back in the 70s. It's a long time ago when it was like that very frequently. So I took aconitum when I finally learned how to use homeopathy. And aconitum, not for fear of flying, I was taking it for something else, and lo and behold, it acted. So aconitum is also a very good medicine. Should these medicines that I just described tonight not act fully? Let's see if we've got any other questions that I might be able to answer quickly. We've got a few minutes. Yeah, watch the replay. That's the way to do this, my friends. Yes, great help. I'm glad to hear it. Thank you, Joe. This will help me a ton. I've got an upcoming eye surgery that has got me freaking out. The surgery is still 3 weeks away. Okay, so you see that that fear of anticipatory anxiety can definitely be Gelsemium. But if that doesn't do enough, see, this will work in many cases, but it might not, or it only partially works, then we move to another medicine. That is a situation where aconitum could be quite valuable too. Claustrophobia, yes, you could also look at claustrophobia. Thank you very much, Francine. Page 125 by Robin Murphy's repertory. I used to get the runs the night before. Flight nerves once in the air, I would be fine. Getting the runs the night before is often Gelsemium. Often that's the remedy, Gelsemium. Gelsemium was used, so sad when I tell this story, during the Civil War. The doctors back in the Civil War were often homeopaths, and they were on the field with the soldiers. And the soldiers knew what the battle they were going into the next day. And they would be very frightened because they were about to die. I mean, they all knew they were going to die. It was a brutal war. They knew this, and so the doctors would administer Gelsemium. The young men would have loose bowels and terrible anxiety, and Gelsemium would calm them down enough to face their death. Okay, your timing is impeccable as always. Angela says, daughter has flight coming up. Love you too. Too rushed. Yes, I know. Can you show us the book again, please? And thank you. Yes, absolutely. This is Robin Murphy's Meta Repertory, Robin Murphy ND. It's the 4th edition. 3rd edition is decent. 4th edition is better. It's not going to give you the potency or frequency. It's going to give you the roadmap. But this is called a repertory, where it is the consolidation of all of human suffering put in one book, and the medicines that have been shown either clinically or through provings to have acted for those conditions or those symptoms. All righty, I think we've got it. Okay, my friends, for those of you who are Mighty members, stay on. Don't go away. We got lots of great information for you tonight that I think you're going to enjoy. And for Mighty's Plus, certainly stay on. I've got lots of stuff for you. So now just stay right there, and I'm going to push end button. End. Okay. Bye, my friends. God bless you. See you next week, but for the Mighties. Hold on.